Hi, glad to see you on my channel. Today we are going to draw bright, juicy strawberries. But not just for fun, but as a postcard that you can then give as a gift or send to someone special. This will be an easy and enjoyable process. Before we begin, let's prepare everything we need. We will need watercolor paints and a palette. You can use an ordinary white plate, paper for watercolor. Also, take a simple pencil and a soft rubber band for easy sketching. For working with paints, I use a regular watercolor brush and a small flat brush. It will come in handy for some effects. From liners, waterproof black and white. Also, we will need a napkin to remove excess water, a glass with clean water, and a hairdryer. It will help speed up the drying process between layers. I secure the watercolor paper with masking tape around the edges. This is to prevent it from shifting during painting and warping from water. Plus, once the tape is removed, there will be a neat white border around the edges. This will add a more finished, neat look to the card. Try to glue the ribbon on evenly, especially if you want to maintain symmetry. Now we move on to the sketch. This is the basis of our future card. I open a photo of a strawberry in front of me and look at it carefully. Pay attention to the shape, curves, where the light and shadow will be. Try not to redraw the photo one-to-one, but rather to convey the character and mood. We will have a strawberry a little stylized, lively, and bright. With a pencil, I begin to carefully outline the contour. Do not press too hard. The lines should be light, so that they can be easily erased later. At this stage, the main thing is to catch the proportions and the general silhouette. I move gradually. First, I outline the general shape of the strawberry half. Then I add the tail and seeds, and at the end, light lines to indicate the inner structure of the pulp. When I'm happy with the shape, I take a waterproof black liner and carefully trace over the entire sketch. This will give the drawing clarity and help it to hold against the watercolor background. Even if the paint smudges a little, the lines will remain visible. Allow the marker to dry well so that it does not smudge when you continue working. If you still find it difficult to draw strawberries on your own, don't worry. I have prepared a ready-made outline for you. You can download it from the link in the description, print it out, and immediately start the most interesting thing: coloring. It's a great way to relax and feel confident, even if you're just starting out. Let's move on to the most magical moment, the beginning of working with color. I start with the first light layers of watercolor. This is a very important stage. In watercolor, it is impossible to completely return the whiteness of the paper, so even at the very beginning, I try to leave light areas, especially in the center of the strawberry, where there will be a glare and a feeling of juicy pulp. Remember, in watercolor, we go from light to dark, gradually increasing the depth of color. I take slightly diluted paint and apply the first translucent layer. Don't be afraid to work freely and boldly, but pay close attention to how the water behaves. Somewhere I leave a clean paper. It is these light areas later sound.
And to make the transition softer, I take a clean brush with water and carefully blur the edge of the stroke. This creates a smooth gradient, very characteristic of watercolor. Gradually, I add new layers, a little more saturated, a little warmer, especially around the edges of the strawberries, to create a sense of volume and depth. I work in layers, letting each layer dry before moving on to the next. This way, the paint lays down cleanly and doesn't lose transparency. And while I'm applying the color, I'd like to say one important thing. Each card like this is not just a pretty picture. It is a small gesture of attention that feels warm. An artist always puts a part of himself into his work, his mood, his inspiration, his emotions. And that is why a person who receives such a card will definitely feel this energy. It is not just strawberries. It is your attention, your mood, your "I was thinking about you." Believe me, such gifts are remembered for a long time. Now I'm entering the most meditative stage, the painting. I like to slow down a bit at this point, listen to myself, and just watch the water and paint interact on the paper. I start with soft, light colors. They go on easily, almost weightlessly. It's like the breath of the painting. It is very important from the very beginning to understand where the light will be. Leave the white areas. Don't touch them. This is the light inside, which will then shine through all subsequent layers. Watercolor is alive. It behaves in a new way every time. Somewhere it spreads unexpectedly, somewhere it dries faster than you would like. But that's the beauty of it. I try not to fight it, but to observe how the paint flows, how the shades mix. If the edge of a stroke seems harsh, I take a clean brush with water and gently touch the border. It's smooth, natural, almost like a dance. As I lay down the color, I think about who this card could be for. It could be a loved one, a friend, a colleague, or even yourself. It's moments like these that make it feel special. Drawing is not just a technique. It is a process in which you put your attention, care, and mood. And what you create is always a little more than just an image. See how the strawberries gradually start to gain flavor. There's volume, saturation, transitions from light to deep red. Leaving the light center, I intensify the edges. This creates the very effect of juiciness that you want to taste with your eyes. Sometimes I just stop and look. I don't rush. It's important to let yourself enjoy the process. And you know what the greatest joy is? To realize that at the end of this work, there will be not just a card, but a small, warm reminder that handmade work is always a story told without words. Now that the main color layers are in place, I'll move on to the details. They make the work complete and liven it up. I take a flat brush, squeeze it well from the water, and gently go over the light center of the strawberry. This allows me to lighten the spots and even out the transitions. I try to keep the light in the center. It creates a sense of volume and freshness. I add a little more saturated red along the edges. The strawberries become more tasty, as if poured with juice. Next, a light shadow under the strawberries. First, I apply a warm gray-purple shade, then gently blur it with a clean brush so that the shadow looks natural and doesn't distract from the main thing. Now, one of my favorite parts is the splatter. I lightly dab the paint onto the brush and gently shake off the droplets onto the paper. This adds vibrancy and dynamics. Immediately afterward, I dry with a hairdryer to lock in what I've gotten and not smudge it. When everything is dry, I take a white liner and carefully draw grains on the strawberries. I try not to overdo it. A few thin dots and strokes to emphasize the texture. With black liner, I slightly strengthen separate lines, tail, seeds, contour, but only where it is really necessary. Don't be afraid to leave something understated. It adds vibrancy to the drawing. Each of these steps is like a stroke in writing. It's as if we are finishing a postcard, completing it with care and attention. It is no longer just a drawing. It is a small work in which the soul is invested. Now I'm looking at the drawing again carefully. Somewhere I'm slightly emphasizing the contours with a marker, adding the final touches. This is not about technique, but more about intuition. I feel where I want to add emphasis and where I want to leave air. And yes, I want to say an important thing. I am well aware that the first time you paint a watercolor may not turn out the way you imagined. Sometimes watercolor flows in the wrong place, somewhere the hand trembles, or the colors do not lie down as desired. It's completely normal. Drawing is a process, and with each new drawing, you become a little more confident, a little freer. The main thing is to keep going. Even if something doesn't work out, it's an experience, not a mistake. I myself very often redo, try again, look for new approaches, and every time I find joy in it. Don't be afraid to try again, because one day you will look at your drawing and feel, here it worked. Until then, just draw with pleasure, with interest, with an open heart. The final touch remains. Before removing the sticky tape, I warm it up a little with a hairdryer. This will help to carefully remove it without damaging the paper. Now I slowly and carefully remove the tape, and a beautiful white frame appears. I love this moment. The work immediately looks like a finished postcard. That's it. Our strawberries are ready. I hope you enjoyed the process and felt inspired. Let this postcard be a reminder of how nice it is to create with your own hands. If you liked this video, put a like. I will be very pleased. And be sure to subscribe to the channel to not get lost and get even more useful and cozy videos about drawing and creativity. Thank you for being with me. See you in the next videos.